Hello friends and fellow bibliophiles, welcome back to Kat's Novel Adventures. In today's video, I want to share with you my TBR for the Mardi Gras Readathon. It's January 6th, which means it's King's Day, which also means the Mardi Gras season has officially begun. And I am so excited to share with you my gumbo pot of possibilities. As Laurie and I mentioned in our announcement videos, we do have a bingo card that has a variety of prompts, but keep in mind you do not have to fulfill all of those prompts in order to participate. I myself have tried to find a book that already exists on my bookshelves to fit the prompts, and I was pretty successful. There's only one prompt I ended up having to use the bonus prompt for, and I am going to have to buy the group read, which is New Orleans Mourning by Julie Smith. But that's okay. If I only buy one book for all of these different prompts, I think I'm doing really well. I also do have a couple of recommendations of books for you as well. So let's go ahead and get started. The first prompt is to read a book about royalty, and I have decided to count New Orleans Mourning by Julie Smith for this prompt. It is about Skip Langdon, who is a rookie policewoman, and she gets called in on a case where the king of one of the Mardi Gras crews has been murdered. There is a plethora of colorful characters that could possibly be the killer or who committed this dastardly deed. The second prompt is to read a book that is set on the Gulf Coast. And the book that I chose has been on my shelf for a very long time. In fact, my oldest son, who is 35, read this 1 year in high school for his summer reading. And the book is called Daisy Fay and the Miracle Man by Fannie Flagg. This will be my first Fannie Flagg book, but it is about Daisy Fay. Daisy Fay is coming of age in the Gulf Coast Shell Beach, which is the end of the road of the South. The folks who head for Florida haven't discovered it yet and aren't likely to, but it's a dandy place to meet local VIPs like hard-drinking Jimmy Snow, who uses his crop dusting plane for both transportation and carrying out revenge. Former socialite Mrs. Dot, who is trying to hold junior debutante meetings in the back of the bait shop, and Daisy's own daddy, who comes up with a mortgage scheme in which his daughter has to return from the dead in a carefully orchestrated miracle. They're all part of the fun that takes us down home, back to the 50s and into the best story ever written east of Texas or maybe anywhere else. This sounds like it is going to be a riot. It's going to be a fun time. The third prompt is to read a book about cake or with cake in the title. And I'm going to admit this prompt stumped me. I don't have any books on my shelves that fulfill this prompt, so I'm using the bonus prompt instead. And the bonus prompt is to read a book with purple, gold, silver, deep red, blue, orange, or vibrant green on the cover, or it could be a combination of all of those colors. And I went ahead and chose Empty Smiles by Catherine Arden. This is the fourth book in the Small Spaces series. Again, I will be hanging out with the group on their next adventure, and that group is Ollie, Coco, Brian, and now Phil. This takes place about 3 months after their last adventures. So very excited to finally get to this one. The fourth prompt is to read a book set in France, and I chose The Little French Bistro by Nina George. I'm very excited to finally get to this. I had picked this up at Books A Million years ago, so I love the fact that I'm having an opportunity to read it. It is an extraordinary novel about new beginnings. Marianne is stuck in a loveless, unhappy marriage, and after 41 years, she has reached her limit, and one evening in Paris, she decides to take action. Following a dramatic moment on the banks of the Seine, Marianne leaves her life behind and sets out for the coast. She finds herself in Brittany, the northwestern part of France, also known as the end of the world. And there she is going to have some adventures. Prompt number 5 is to read a book about a ball or an elegant event. And I'm actually going to read 2 short stories. The first short story is The Masque of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe, one of my favorite authors. And the second one is called Red by Hilary Monahan. It is a retelling of The Masque of the Red Death, and both of these stories can be found in His Hideous Heart. Very excited to finally dive into this book. This was a gift to me a couple of years ago from my friend Kelsi over at Slime and Slashers. But I can't wait to see what Miss Hilary Monahan does with that classic story. Prompt number 6 is to read a book that centers around music. And I chose a picture book written by Lemony Snicket, illustrations by Carson Ellis, with music by Nathaniel Stuckey, and it is called The Composer is Dead. This is going to be a lot of fun. It says, if you have ever heard an orchestra play, then you know that musicians are most certainly guilty of something. Where exactly were the violins on the night in question? Did anyone see the harp? Is the trumpet protesting a bit too boisterously? In this perplexing murder mystery, everyone seems to have a motive. Everyone has an alibi, and nearly everyone is a musical instrument. But the composer is still dead. And what is neat about this picture book is there's actually a CD right there that has the music, and it looks like it has never been opened. I believe I got this at Second and Charles, if I'm not mistaken. So very, very excited to get to this one. Prompt number 7 is to read a book related to or about food, and I chose another picture book for this one. It is a traditional song adapted by Jeanette Downing, illustrated by Deborah Ousley-Kader, and it is called Chef Creole. This is a wonderful little story about all these different ingredients that are going to come together to create Chef Creole. And what's wonderful about this book is that Jeanette Downing visited Holy Ghost School where I worked and where Andrew attended, and he was able to attend her author visit. She sang some songs, she read from her books, and she also signed some books. And this book is a signed copy. It was signed to Andrew, and it says, "To Andrew, Books Cook, Jeanette Downing." So I just think that is special, and I'm looking forward to revisiting this picture book. Prompt number 8 is to read a book about a crew or a group of friends, and I have chosen A Density of Souls by Christopher Rice. He happens to be the son of Anne Rice. Anne Rice lived in New Orleans for a great many years, and I had the pleasure of meeting her. So I'm looking forward to reading a book by her son. And this is a story of 4 young friends in New Orleans whose lives are pulled in drastically different directions when they enter high school. Meredith, Brandon, Stephen, and Greg, once inseparable, are torn apart by envy, secret passion, and rage. They quickly discover the fragile boundaries between friendship and betrayal as they form new allegiances. So 5 years later, the 4 friends are drawn back together as new facts about their mutual history are revealed, and what was held to be a tragic accident is discovered to be murder. So it sounds like this is going to be very intriguing, and I can't wait to read this one. And prompt number 9 is to read a book set in New Orleans, and this is where I'm going to double dip because I'm going to use the book New Orleans Mourning by Julie Smith. And as we're talking about New Orleans Mourning, I want to tell you that if you read that group read, it will cover quite a few of the prompts. It could count for royalty, it could count for crew, it could count for New Orleans, it could also count for set on the Gulf Coast because New Orleans is part of the Gulf Coast. It probably could also count for music and food. I'm sure they're going to be talking all about that in the group read. So if you want to participate in that, please get a copy of it soon and join us. And then we'll have a live discussion at the end of the carnival season. For anyone who is looking for some books that are set in New Orleans or along the Gulf Coast, I I have a couple of recommendations. Except for one book in my stack, I have read all of these, but it has been quite a while. And the one that I haven't read, I really do need to eventually get to it because my mom says it is fabulous. So the first one is called As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. This is set in Mississippi. The second book is called Delta Wedding by Eudora Welty. Again, this is Mississippi. And then I have one that is A Lesson Before Dying, and this is actually a fictional story someplace in Louisiana. And then the next three are all books that take place in New Orleans. And the first one is The Awakening by Kate Chopin. My copy also has some selected stories in it. And then Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. Actually, the Vampire Chronicles are set there. I believe the Witches are set there. There's a variety of Anne Rice's books that are set in New Orleans, some that are even standalones. But I love Interview with a Vampire, and this is actually a signed copy. I got to meet Anne Rice, and she signed my copy for me. Very exciting. I went to a writer's conference when I was in college, and she was one of the guest speakers, and she also had a cocktail party at her home that I got to attend. It was fantastic. Her house was on St. Charles Avenue, which is a beautiful part of New Orleans, and her house was absolutely gorgeous. And the last book that I want to mention is A Confederacy of Dunces, a novel by John Kennedy Toole. And this is the book I have not read, but I happened to get this from a friend of mine. He lent it to me, and eventually one day I'll get to it. And if he doesn't want it back, it will find a place on my shelf permanently. That's my TBR for the Mardi Gras Readathon. Let me know in the comments below if you have read any of the books that I am planning to read during the carnival season. Just a couple of reminders. The Mardi Gras Readathon officially kicks off with live sprints on Saturday, January the 13th. It's a month-long readathon that will last until February 13th, which happens to be Fat Tuesday or Mardi Gras Day. That's when we'll have our live discussion on the group read, New Orleans Mourning by Julie Smith. I also have a Discord where we have some channels that are devoted to the Mardi Gras Readathon. You don't have to join the Discord if you don't want to, but it's there if you'd like to check it out. Also, we'll have that bingo card listed on Instagram as well. All of my social media information is listed in the description box below. And also, please check out Laurie's channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. She is the creator of the Mardi Gras Readathon, and she asked me to co-host with her, and I'm having a great time, and I haven't even gotten started yet. But please check her channel out. She's a wonderful person, awesome content. I'm leaving her link to her channel in the description box below as well. Please consider subscribing. And I always appreciate y'all. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate your support. I hope you will join us for the Mardi Gras Readathon. Until our paths cross again, stay amazing and be adventurous.